Hello everyone, my name is Brandy Roan and here's the final presentation on the soccer data. So the team's monotony and strain, as I learned in the class, and it's like what monotony is like the amount of work followed by the strain. So as you can see here, the orange line shows like, you know, at first week they train very high. So with this is saying that because they are trained so high, they have a greater risk at kind of getting injury. So you kind of don't want that, like the ratio between monotony and strain, you don't want it to be high. And here with this athletes with the soccer team, that's why it shows that it has an increase in injury due to the monotony of the whole set of data. Okay, so athlete one, I gathered the information and I looked at the average of the sleep duration and the average of sleep quality. And so for the first, like you just look at the first few days, like you can tell that like the athlete, she's kind of in her range with be staying at the 6 to 10, but like as you can see, she's falling, like she's dropping way below her the limit necessarily for this data. So I looked at the so I figured that I would discuss with the coach or whatever to see what is going on, that like she's consistently sleeping here, like say the first couple weeks she gets to it and then she drops and then she comes back up, like, and then she's she's not getting enough sleep here. And so I feel like because she's not getting enough sleep here, it's affecting like her quality of sleep is steady. But then like it peaks higher in like in that 45th week or so. And as you can see here, because that's increasing like her sleep quality, then it goes back to normal. So as you can, like her sleep duration, like she's sleeping longer because she's having really good sleep. And so with our athletes, we look at stuff like that because that, sorry. All right. So for athlete two, I looked at the effect sizes. Um, I looked at the effect sizes, and so with the effect size here, we wanted the effect size to be, like within the research, we wanted the effect size to not be no greater than 2. So as we can see, this athlete has, her ranges below the effect size than 2, which is good, but like what I'm concerned is that it drops so like low, like when you get to that 25-day mark or whatever. And then I compare that to the weekly volume, which would go, like how much you're working per week. And like if you look at it, like she really at week 1, like she's extremely working really really hard, and then drops down by week 3, and then it's kind of just like, is it too much work? So that's why I would be concerned that she start like at an early workout stage or whatever, training wise, she's already at like 14, like with the weekly volume, and like that could like have an effect on like a burnout too quickly, and or having too much, like that can basically also put her at risk for getting hurt quickly. Athlete 3, I took the average of her mood by the weekly volume of, and like compared it to, and I can like notice that when her mood is pretty steady, then that's where she performs a little bit better. See how at week 37 to 39, well, the days 37 39, I'm sorry. That's like maybe week 8 or 9, and I mean week 4 and 5, I'm sorry. And as you can see here, she drops down, so she's not performing at her best because of her mood. her mood, the average of like her mood or how she feels every day, that changes. So, I mean, that's common in athletes I work with. They like, so athletes can be in the mood and then they don't perform well. So I think that that's where I would go and to see how she's spiking up her mood. Like she just basically, she's steady and then her mood goes up and then her performance. So really with mood, like I thought this was interesting because you kind of want to, I mean, it's not something that we watch on a regular basis because of course athletes are going to have moods, but when it starts to affect the way they're training or the results that they're needing to perform, then you have to go back and say, okay, what's causing this? What's causing, and it could be many factors that cause their mood to change. She might have woken up on the bad side of the bed. She might have been going through something with family. So Justice was able to see, okay, there's a problem. So I would say, according to the, research and what I've come to the conclusion that we don't need to necessarily like keep a strict eye on her, but we want to, check in with the athlete and say, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? How are you feeling today? So that way we can see, okay, if she's not feeling it today, then we know that we would have to, we would have to do certain things to kind of motivate her for that practice time. So we got athlete 4, and I took the average of mood as well, and then I compared it with the sleep quality, and as you can see, it's pretty steady, but like it's just those spikes that like how she spikes up at like day 1. It's like day 1 to day 3, her mood is extremely high, and also her sleep quality is extremely high. But whereas day 13 to 15, her mood goes down, her sleep quality, it goes down. So that's where my concern is, because it's like, it's just so sudden that I would, tell the coach or what to say, okay, what can we do to help with her mood changes, or why is her mood this way? So that way it's affecting her sleep quality, and it's ultimately going to affect how she performs. All right, so now we got athlete 5s, and I took the Q to the AC ratio, and with the research, what we learned in class, that we know that it is that 1.5, like it's in between the 1.5 mark. And as you can see, like this athlete here, she's above that, which is great, but too much. I feel like too much workload is going to cause her to burn out quickly. So it's like, and so with the AC ratio, we looked at the first 7 days, and then you look at 7 to 14 days. So here on the first 7 days, she's like decreasing. So she's not, I don't think that maybe she's not, maybe she has a lot of things going on. Maybe she's a new athlete and she's trying to figure things out, because her first to 7 days are like below the standard. So that would concern me too, because I figure out, okay, why is this athlete doesn't want to, participate, or she's not understanding, like she's not training well. So it's just like, and then once we hit 13 to 15, then it basically, like her training like spikes back up. So I like in between that first to 7 days and then the 7 to 15 days, it's like, okay, what happened in those 7 to 15 days that the her to perform better? And so 7 to 15 days, that's like week 2. So as you can see, the weekly volume of training is decreasing here. So that's probably, and I think that's probably why her, because she's training a little bit, like she doesn't have so much training on her. So that way she can maybe focus on and getting the like correct technique, so that way she can perform better. So I think that's, but that's why I would like have the coach really look into seeing why at the beginning of the first to 7 days that she wasn't performing at the level that she needs to be performing, but then the next week or two she spikes up, but then she drops back down, then she spikes back up again. So we kind of just I would just check in and say, look, we need to get with this athlete and see like if we need to give her more training. We need to give her harder training techniques, or do we need to cut back on it to make sure if she's hurting or stuff like that, to make sure that we're not overtraining her. So for athlete 6, I just looked at the average of fatigue. And so I just like, I feel like this data here, it just was like all over, because first it was consistent for the first 7 days. Okay. You know, right. And then that average mark, you know, right within that, but then it starts to like drop. So I would really be concerned that you're fatiguing faster. So that means this is telling me that the athlete is like training too hard too early. And so we don't want that, because then that's going to increase injury, that can increase burnout and later on within the sport. So we got to find a balance where she gets enough training, so that way, you know, this could be a star athlete. A lot of other factors could have taken into play with this fatigue. But once you become, I feel like for the athletes, once you become fatigued, like it's kind of harder to push yourself because you're so tired and your muscles are so tired. So I just think that that's a problem here with it dropping so much, and it doesn't really have a consistent, you know, like it's like she's not getting enough break period. And that's important for, you know, the adequate amount of rest. That's important for athletes, because you do have to get rest when you need it, you know, especially doing heavy training and stuff like that. Athlete 7, same thing. This one's kind of like the same thing with athlete 3 when it pertains to the A to C ratio. With the first 7 days, it's kind of like the first, like actually like it's not even the first 7, it's really the first 3 that the athlete doesn't perform like well. And so then we have to look at it and say, okay, is this a pattern with the training? Is this like, we got to look into other factors of saying why like the first 7 days our training isn't like that, we're not getting the results that we need with training, because it seems like it's a decrease and like it drops down here, and as you can see, this lotus line here, it just drops, and then she picks it back up, and then she's steady here, and then she jumps up. And it's like we want our athletes to be, at the beginning, we want them to like work, you know, of course, grow and work their way through it, but we also want them to perform it. We don't want them to like be like decreasing in times and stuff like that. So that's what would be my concern really, is just that the beginning, first to 7 days, is it too much classes? Are they freshmen? Are they getting used to, college or high, you know, whatever the case may be. So with athlete 8, I took the average of soreness and then effect size. And so as we know with our effect size, you know, of course we want it to be greater. We don't want any of our numbers to be greater than 2, which was good here, because her, you know, she just has a little bit of times where she, her effect size was a little, I wanted to say large, but not really, because she fell back down, you know, into the normal ranges. But my, you know, I feel like as later on in the weeks, she gets more sore and sore and sore. So I think where that 25, 28 mark on the effect size, it allowed her sore, like she was, I guess, more sore than normal. So that wasn't affected by it as well. Athlete 9, the average of stress. So I took that, and, you know, seeing that over time, this athlete is become like, she just has too many spikes in her, like her stress levels are always high. So there's times where it's okay, it drops down and then it's consistent, but it's too up and down. So I feel like, okay, so this is telling me that the athlete is, you know, stressful. It could be outside stress, but also, you know, dealing with workouts and stuff like that. So I would, you know, really discuss with the, you know, coach and say, okay, what can we do to help this athlete not be as stressed during the season or during the training? Because her being stressful can really, she can really be at risk for injury, because like when you stress, your you have a cloud judgment, I'm sorry. And like you're not thinking about